All right, so the first thing we're going to do is install the Microsoft Virtual Desktop Infrastructure. This is activity 915 in your book, page 428. Um, the general process is kind of outlined starting on page 424 with some screenshots that we'll see for ourselves right now. So what we are going to do is we're adding a role. We are adding new capabilities to our server. So maximize this. Good. So as per usual, we're going to use the Add Roles and Features wizard. And then things are going to diverge pretty quickly. Because you could, in theory, use role-based feature installation. But there's a better way to do this, which is actually to choose the remote desktop services installation. So it's going to grab everything we need. Now, and notice this. Let me flip this back the other way. Notice and that we had as usual, we have our little workflow. Installation type, service selection, role, features, confirmation, etc. That changes. Deployment type, scenario, role services, connection broker, web access, virtualization. So we completely changed the workflow here from what you would normally do. That's the first big thing to note. Bam. And this is going to be a standard deployment. Let me see. Yes. Now this will allow us to deploy across multiple servers. Now, if you only had the one server and you wanted to automatically create a collection, we could use a quick start option. The multi-point services option is kind of allows us to do something a little bit more like the old-fashioned thin client dumb terminal mode of operation. So you could actually have multiple users tied into the same machine at the same time, logged in, and not get the NT kernel fatally confused. So, but we're not going to do that. We're not going to create multiple servers. We're not going to use USB hubs or thin clients. We're going to go with a standard deployment. This also allows us to do full customization, and then we'll create the collection afterward. So click next. We are going to go with a virtual machine based deployment. The other option is a session based desktop deployment. So you'd actually connect your users to a desktop that exists to support that session, rather than connecting your users to virtual desktops. In both cases, we have published remote app, but the difference here is virtual versus physical. So we're going to go with VM-based desktop deployment. Click next, and let's see. So as far as our role services are concerned, let's see. We've got the connection broker, we've got web access, we've got remote desktop virtualization. We need all these. We're going to use our domain credentials to create this deployment. There's another option here, which is the remote desktop session host option, but we're not going to, we could add that later, but we could only do one of these at a time. So we're going to have the connection broker, web access, and remote desktop virtualization. So click next. And we're going to choose our server pool. So this system is going to be the connection broker itself. We don't want to add anything else, so we're going to click this button to move it over. There we go. So the domain member server is now selected as our connection broker. Good. Web access. And we are going to install the web access role on the connection broker server, so it can deal with those. It can accept those web connections. Click, and we are going to move. We're also going to make it the virtualization host, because it has also got, as you can see, it's also got the Hyper-V role ready to go. Now, this would be roughly analogous to selecting as your if you've done these labs already, the individual exercises for lab 9.1, you've gone through Horizon. As you're creating the pools in Horizon, as you're selecting your compute resources, this is approximately what we're doing here. Which machine is literally going to be hosting the VMs? Now, if you have a bank of Hyper-V servers, which will actually be running the VMs, then you might make a different selection here. But if this member server here, which I note, I should have noted this before, this is not something you do on a domain controller any more than you install the Horizon connection server on a domain controller. It needs the domain. It has to talk to the domain server. It should not be the domain server. That honestly shouldn't be surprising at this point. Anyway, so we've selected our compute resource. Let's see if it wants us to it doesn't say anything about creating, let's see, creating the virtual switch. Let's make sure we have to do that. Okay, so we do not have to create a new virtual switch, but we could. Particularly if you're connecting multiple servers together, we might want to create a new switch on all of them to support this new role. And it's going to think for a second. Okay, we have to reboot, no new switch. Restart if automatically required. Yeah, we're going to click that one. And click deploy. See how quickly this goes. Okay, so this thing is going to reboot a few times. That's okay. And once all this rebooting is done, we will just move on to the next activity. So, but I'm going to let it run for a little bit. Let's just see let's see how this works. And it rebooted. Let's see what happens. Okay. Reconnect. Now this actually might go pretty quickly. I had to reboot something earlier this morning on a different lab and it rebooted really fast. Okay, rebooting. Not connected. Okay, let's try that again. I wonder if it rebooted again. Might be doing that. Okay. 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 So there's maybe a licensing issue. It'll stop if you got about 3 months. Actually, no. Yes, 4 months. That's okay. You know what I'm going to do? Let's have a little fun. I'm going to set up a continuous ping here. That way, every time this thing reboots, I can just watch it come back up. And we're waiting some more. Okay, connection broker is installed. Access to role service is installed. Virtualization is installed. And close. And that's all there is to it, I believe. Now, what we might want to do just for giggles, and you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do it, reboot this thing. So, because I want to make sure this is good and stable before I move on to the next one. Restart. I'm going to call this application installation planned. Continue. Now, let's see if there's a break. Not connected. Okay. Okay, there we go. There, it's rebooting. Timed out. When it comes back up, I'll connect again. There. Ooh, quick. Boom. Okay, so we will move on to activity 916, configuring the connection broker in the next lab. Thank you for watching.